Hey guys, welcome to Headspace Hangout. Today we have our first guest, a person that's been in my life for as long as I can remember, has helped me in a lot of ways more than she knows, that I look up to, and I love her to bits, and I'm blessed and glad to have her on today. Our guest will be Janine DeSantos. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you, Sheldon. That's very sweet, kind.
I appreciate that. So basically, before I get into it, I think if you could just please give us a little bit of an introduction and background as to what's made you get into the industry that you're in currently.
So I'm in the field of people. I studied industrial psychology at varsity. I knew I wanted to work with people. Um, and so I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into law. I had an aunt, our mutual aunt, Louise, who wanted me to study law. Um, and I had always watched law programs growing up, so I
I
thought that's what I
didn't
wanted to.
I didn't know that. Sorry to interrupt. I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Yeah, so going into varsity in first year, I studied law and psychology, um,
Wow.
and I just love the field of psychology. So that ended up being the field that I stayed in. Law was just way too much work, and I'm much too lazy to do that much work. So I went into the field of psychology. I thought I wanted to do counselling psychology, but the more I understood the field of corporate and the field of the way people work in business, and industrial psychology is more about the way people work and the way their minds work, whereas counseling psychology is really just about and I don't mean to trivialize it, and that's not at all what I'm doing, but counseling psychology is really just about helping people through their trauma, which is very important. It's a very important science, but understanding the way people behave is what industrial psychology is about. And that was very interesting for me. Um, and and I really fell in love with the field of leadership, about making people happy in their real work, in their real lives, and I became really passionate about helping people find their potential. So that's what put me into the field of industrial psychology. Um, yeah.
Sorry to
So
jump in. I wanted to find out because based on what you just said in your experience, what would be the difference between currently what you study and what you're doing compared to me going to a psychologist at their offices and sit down and they listen to my issues or problems, should I say?
an industrial psychologist understands like people's behaviors, how they behave at work, and what makes them kind of tick at work. So an industrial psychologist is someone who would come in and help you plan your organization. They would be someone who helps you understand leadership behaviors, helps you understand why you would put a person in certain roles, what would motivate a person. So they would be someone who helps you with planning succession in your organization, leadership in your organization, burnout. So really, the psychology around industry, that's what's called the industrial
Okay,
psychologist.
100%.
Whereas a psychologist that you would go to in their office, that's a clinical or a counseling psychologist. That's someone who would help you through a trauma, or help you through depression, or help you through just understanding um, your anxieties. So both would be able to assist you with anxiety,
Yeah.
um, but the one sort of more works at a corporate level, and the other one works at an individual level, helping you through counseling, helping you through traumas, that kind of thing. As an industrial psychologist, I also happen to be a counselor, but I'm not trained to counsel you through a trauma.
Okay. That plays a big part because like I was saying to some of my team members during the week, is that we spend a lot more time during the week at work than we do at home. If we're not having a laugh, having fun, kind of happy in our environment and happy with our superiors as well as our team under us, I think the mindset there trickles into how you take it home and how you act at home. So I think
100%.
your role, what you do, besides speaking with you, I think a lot of people don't in companies don't really see the importance of that. I could be wrong. I don't have the data in front of me, but just what I've seen in a lot of companies I've worked, besides working with you, which was great, um, a lot of places don't really look at the mental states of employees, so that's kind of a place to be.
No, 100%. So companies often think that the stuff that we do, culture, building culture, looking after people's mental health, um, doing, all the people stuff is fluffy stuff, and it's absolutely not. It's without your people, a business doesn't exist. And so you absolutely need to look after the mental health of your people, because if your people fall flat, you've lost your business. Your people, there's a reason why we call the people in a business the human resources or the human capital of a business, because they are one of the key resources in a business, just as important as your capital, your liquid capital in a business, just as important as your IT resources, just as important as any other resource in your business. In fact, sometimes even more important.
Couldn't have said that any better. So thank you for that.
Cool.
So based on what you do on a daily basis, what are some common mental health issues you encounter in a workplace? Like just your average, one or two maybe.
So it's been very interesting over the last couple of years. So certainly at the turn of the century, we saw, and I sound very old when I say the turn of the century, because like I was born in the last century. So somebody I was talking to the other day said, "Can you believe in the late 1900s?" And I realized they were talking about like yeah, me. But at the turn of the century, we saw a change between, like when my father was at work, until obviously like the late part of his career. But when my father used to go to work, he used to go to work and then come home, and then work was finished. And when we went on leave, he'd be on leave, and nobody could get hold of him.
Not anymore.
Whereas we're absolutely, like now we're always on. We're absolutely always on. So there's certainly been a change in this need to be always available. And I know in some countries in Europe, certainly in France, they've made some laws. In Norway, they've made some laws where it's actually illegal to contact people after hours.
They're starting to talk about that. Actually talking about that now in Australia too.
Yeah. So if you look on Microsoft, there's an ability to schedule your emails. So if you personally want to work after hours, that's great. That's up to you. And most of us need to. It's impossible for most people to get their work done in 8 hours. I remember when I was working in corporate, being the HR exec, my day was completely full of meetings. So I'd come to work, put my computer at my desk, and then at 5 o'clock I'd pick it up and go home, because I literally didn't see my computer all day. And so exactly, and then my afternoon, and I know when you and I work together, that was certainly your day as well. So I then have to come home and do emails and work in the evening. And so if you want to do that, and that's your prerogative, then you need to schedule your emails so that you only send them in the morning. But all that's doing is not adding pressure to your team, because now they only get to read your emails at 8 o'clock in the morning, whereas before they would have been able to read your emails at 6 o'clock in the morning if they wanted to. Correct. So, and they could have started their day early if they wanted to. So it's kind of a knock-on effect. But so that is a big stress in the workplace. Another big stress that since COVID, there's been a change in how the workplace works. So people have realized that a hybrid work environment is possible. And so there's been a whole shift in the workplace. Many of my clients have completely changed their office environment. I've got one client who's completely got rid of their massive big office building in Sandton. And they now have a tiny office space that seats probably 10% of their staff, and it's only hot desks. So people can use the office if they need to, if their Wi-Fi's down, or if they need to have a meeting, and they have to book into the office, they have to book offices, but otherwise they work from home. And so some people are working fully remote, some people are working hybrid. And that's another stress, because again, we're losing that boundary between work and life.
Yeah, of course.
So for me personally, my son's autistic and he's homeschooled. And so when he finishes school at 12:30, there's a 5-hour gap between when he finishes school and I finish work. And there's this
trying to balance that together.
Absolutely, this understanding of okay, well, I'm finished school now. Why can't you come and sit with me? Why can't you? And he's starting to understand. And he'll walk in, so he only speaks in scripts. So he'll now come in and say, "Mommy, come play with me," when the work is finished. Whereas before he'd say, "Mommy, come play with me." Now he understands when the work is finished. But so yeah, so those are some of the key issues. It's this always on behavior, and also finding this balance of how to handle the hybrid environment.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think the pros and cons to technology, pros being everything is so much easier to get knowledge and access, but the cons is we take our work home with us and we take everything with us. It's all about instant gratification, I think, nowadays. And
Yeah.
that's the scary part. You know, we all are part of it. We all end up sitting on our phones for 20 minutes, half an hour, and just zoning out to the world, where we all could be doing, I think, something a little bit better than that. But I do it, so I'm not too judging anyone.
100%. Yeah.
So based on stress and burnout, we went to, you said that about earlier.
Yeah.
What would you say is the common stress or burnout that causes a person to stress and burnout basically in the workplace?
So I think it's a few issues. I think COVID definitely caused a massive worldwide PTSD on the world. I think COVID's had a massive trauma on the world. Certainly the industry we were working in together at the time, our business was closed down during that time, and it was hectic for us. We had to retrench people, we had to put people out of work, and that was emotional. People didn't know what was happening. Just yesterday I was coaching someone, and I had to teach her how to breathe, which is something we'll go through a little bit later when we talk about breathing techniques, possibly about how to handle stress. But I had to teach her how to breathe because I had to tell her that part of breathing is realizing that the threat of death isn't real, whereas with COVID the threat of death was real. So the world, I think, is going through a massive phase of PTSD because of COVID. But also around the world there's a massive cost of living crisis. And there's also massive political crises going on. There's all of a sudden there's these massive political threats and political divisions. So stemming in the US, where there's this massive divide between the left and the right, where the left is going very left and crazy, and all of a sudden, you're getting all these trans species and transgenders, and that's cool. And I don't get me wrong, I believe in transgenderism, but I think everything in moderation. But now we're going from transgenderism to trans species, where there's a school in Johannesburg where there's a child that's actually allowed space to go out and howl because he thinks he's a wolf. The left is just going way too left, which is driving the right far too right, or the right is going far too right, which is driving the left far too left. And it's just, there's no, we're lacking common sense in the world, and it's happening in the US, it's happening in the UK, it's certainly happening in Australia, and it's happening all over the world. So there's that issue where if you don't make a stand, where do you stand? People are scared of getting cancelled. So there's all this political stress that I don't actually think is real in the real world, but it's certainly real on social media. So it's manufactured reality. There's this manufactured outrage. And then there's a cost of living crisis. People are not making it month to month on their salaries. Everybody's trying to find a side hustle. Everybody's trying to make it. People are earning good salaries and still not getting through the month. So I think there's that. And then businesses are putting more and more pressure on their people because businesses aren't making it either. So businesses are putting more and more stress on people. So I think that's, and then there's this case of being always on. So because you're always on, you just never get off the train.
And that just excludes your actual home life, so that's
100%.
everything you're feeling at work with all the stresses, and then you have a stressful day, you come home and there's additional stresses. So it's just crazy how the two interact with each other and causes us to stress and burn out. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So where is this going, do you think?
I think that's what I was saying about it being manufactured outrage. So I think if you speak to the general common person in the world, I think most people believe the same thing. Most people believe that there are people like Caster Semenya in the world that are generally born in the wrong body.
Yeah.
That there are some people that are generally born in the wrong body. There are some people that are transgender. Absolutely. I think that that's absolutely true. But I think because we are on social media, and because usually extremists have loud voices,
Yes.
the people on social media are the people with the loudest voices. And so we think that the problem is more real than it is. And so a good example is, and I'm sure you're not watching it as closely as I am, but the South African election. So the South African election right now, if we watch the South African election, the people with the loudest voices were the extreme left. Okay, so it was the MK party, which was Jacob Zuma's party, and the EFF, which is Julius Maleba's party. And the MK won by a landslide almost the KZN, which is the old Natal province, Durban.
Yeah.
Okay. And people freaked out. They were like, what's going to happen in the KZN? Is MK going to take over? But it didn't. That common sense prevailed. And a whole lot of the more centrist parties, the parties with more common sense, came together and said, there's no ways that we will allow an extreme party, even though they had the loudest voices, to take over one of our most important cities. And the reason why Durban is one of the most important cities is because it's got a port. Okay, so KZN is almost more important as a province than Gauteng, even though Gauteng is an economic hub. KZN is more important because it's got a port.
Everything's coming in.
Everything's coming in there, and so those parties came together: the IFP, the DA, and the ANC, which are the three oldest parties in South Africa. They came together and they said, "There's no ways we can let this new extreme party take over one of our most important provinces." And even though they're kind of enemies, especially the DA and the ANC, they said we have to come together and protect South Africa. And so they put country before party, and they came together. And so together they have more power than this extreme party. And so, yes, the extremists are loud. Yes, like the extreme left and the extreme right are loud.
Based on leadership and mental health in the workplace, what would you say if a team leader, a manager, or even a CEO is listening to this, what could they do from a personal headspace perspective to help their team actually? Yeah, that's about it. What could they do?
So I think it's just about understanding the human element. Like, just remember that you're working with humans and not robots. I think it's just about understanding that you've got different people working for you, giving people space, and also but being firm but fair. So I always talk about social credit and your emotional bank account. So don't allow people to take advantage of, has invested a lot into the business and has got a high emotional credit in the business. So I've got an example at the moment. I've got an employee who, at one of my clients, who has invested a lot into the business. She's been a leader she's taken on a leadership role without the title. She has looked after people in a region where she's been unsupported. And she's really invested a lot in the business. She's worked a lot of overtime. And now we've brought in an official leader into that role. And within 3 months of the new leader being in that role, this girl's fallen ill and she's taken 2 weeks sick. A week, and then she was back at work for 2 weeks, and then took another week. Weeks leave. She took a week sick leave, came back and took another week sick leave. And there is a terrible swine flu going around in South Africa at the moment. So she was genuinely ill. We called her in and spoke to her, and we verified with the doctor that she was genuinely ill. But the manager still complained and wasn't really very understanding about her illness. And I think, so there's a few things at play here. Firstly, I think this girl is frustrated that she's been doing the leadership role and we brought someone else in to take the leadership role. I think that the new manager doesn't understand the fact that she's got all this emotional capital in the business. But I feel that the manager being frustrated and wanting us to discipline this girl for taking the sick leave is is not the right way of handling it. I feel like there should be some
Yeah.
more understanding. She's genuinely ill. And I think we need to understand when people are sick. And probably what's happened is because this girl's been working so hard for so long and not taking any sick leave, the fact that now she has somebody to like kind of rely on, her body's finally given up. And I think, yeah, she's probably like got the swine flu because she's like allowed herself to be sick. And I think as leaders and managers, we need to be understanding. We need to, if somebody is genuinely ill and not taking advantage of the business, we need to allow our people to do that. We need to allow people to take the time, and we need to, if they've got emotional money in their bank account, we need to allow them to take a debit on that. If somebody's taking advantage, we need to be firm, because there's also nothing worse for an organization if a manager allows somebody to take advantage of the team. But because that's actually worse for the good employees. But we do need to be understanding. We need to give people time. We need to and have breaks. Like, so have a Friday afternoon drinks once a month. If your people are remote working all the time, make sure that at least once a month you come bringing the team together. Even if your team is regional and it's difficult for them to come together physically, have a teams meeting once a week where the team comes together and make sure everybody brings a drink. But make sure the team is coming together and just be understanding, just be human. Remember that there's a human element.
I think in today's day and age, and I've seen it, and maybe just because I overthink everything, I see that there's a lack of empathy amongst a lot of leaders and managers, where the team will do really well and it's well done, and then they might do something wrong, and it's like this person's doing a bad job. Actually, why they're doing this, why they're not here, let's call them in, let's give them a warning. That's why they're doing wrong things, where we need to kind of understand why people are going through whatever they're going through and why their performance is not great. If they don't care and they're showing that, then it's a very different story. But if they're going through different scenarios and understandings, we need to understand. You know what I mean? I think that's the empathy.
Absolutely. 100%. Empathy is such an important thing. And managers not all managers naturally have it.
Yeah.
Not all managers naturally have empathy. But if you understand that it's good for your business, then that's important.
Yeah. You see, I battle with that because with my team, I do have empathy and I try to be very friendly with my team. And I'm always like throwing a joke and making them either have a laugh or feel cool, calm, collective. And I feel that sometimes with me being like that, I kind of take advantage of that. So like I'm still learning every day. I'm still trying to understand how to have that balance. I think I told you that years ago. But still trying to learn every single day, where guys would try, beat around the bush, if I'm not there, or if I go to the bathroom and I'm on the floor watching the guys, helping them, they'll try not work or try to do other things. I think, but that's just how I am, I don't think I'll ever be that person that's just gonna micromanage people and tell them every single second what to do and things like that.
I think that's 100%. You've got to allow your team some freedom to be adults. And if you treat people like adults, they'll behave like adults.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to make sure that people aren't taking advantage. So your one of your core mentors, Grant, always used to say trust but check.
Yeah.
Trust but check. So give your team rope, allow them to behave, allow them to have freedom to do their work, but then check that they're actually doing it. Don't just leave them. Always trust what they're doing, allow them to behave in what they're doing, empower them. But then check that they're actually doing it, and check that they're doing it in the way that you want them to do it. Give them guidance, don't micromanage them, give them guidance, and then check in on them every now and then. I used to have a 1-minute check-in with my team every morning. Well, I still do, but especially when I was working and I had a team of 100 people, my first hour and a half of my day was a 1-minute check-in with my team, from my direct managers to their supervisors to their team. Hey, how's it going? What did you eat last night? How's this happening? What's going on? And just check in. As a CEO, often the CEO thinks that their CFO should be their right-hand man. It should be your HR exec. Your CFO is absolutely important, and your CFO should be your left-hand man, but your HR exec needs to be your right-hand man. You should always be checking in with your HR exec. How's the mood of the business? My CEO at SA Taxi used to always come up to me like, "How's the mood?" And if I didn't know, I wasn't doing my job. 90% of my job at SA Taxi was walking around the business, making sure that I knew what was happening, checking in, making sure I understood what the mood of the business was. And if it was low, my job was to go to him and say, "There's a problem in customer service. This is happening here. We need to fix this here. This manager's a problem." And if he brought me those issues, I was in trouble.
100%.
I always had to know what those issues were before he did.
But I wish a lot of companies thought that same way. I don't think they do. They tend to see a lot of people leaving and fires burning, and they don't realize why until it's too late. And then you're sitting in an exit interview, and they're like, "Can you tell me why you're sitting here? And like, why haven't you seen the small fires burning out anyway?"
Yeah, and sometimes you have to fire the toxic geniuses.
100%.
You know, someone can be brilliant at their job, and you think, "I can't lose this person," but that person's poison. And sometimes you have to fire the toxic geniuses, even if they're brilliant. You think, "But geez, man, this person's so brilliant at payroll. I'm never going to get another person." You will. There's brilliant payroll people everywhere. There's brilliant finance people. There's brilliant data people everywhere. There's so much unemployment in the world.
Everyone,
you'll find those brilliant people.
The sad truth is we're all replaceable, unfortunately, but it's the truth. So don't burn yourself out at work, and try a family life balance. Easier said than done.
100%.
If you could give us a personal, just to kind of end this sadly, any personal advice or a quote of the day or anything that comes off the top of your head, like a nice ending message, what would you say?
So something that always sticks in my head is my old CEO used to say, "You spend so much time," he used to say graft, but I'm not Jewish, so I'm going to say work. He used to say, "You spend so much of your life at work, you might as well enjoy it."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well said, eh? Like you don't need anything else after that. And if you don't enjoy it, you know, that obviously could be your fault as well as your leadership's role, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes I read something the other day that said, you know, if you keep complaining every single day about your role, sometimes it's not your work. Maybe it's you could be in the wrong position, your headspace could be wrong. Sometimes you actually just need to reset and actually maybe look for another job. As simple as that.
You're not a tree.
Don't complain if you're working overtime all the time, you're not saying anything, not raising your hand, you're not saying, "Guys, can I get overtime, find money," or anything like that. You just keep doing it and complaining. It's your fault. You know what I mean?
That's it. Change your environment or change your environment. So you know, so either be the change. So talk to the people around you, say, "Hey guys, we can't carry on like this. You know, everyone's fighting with everyone. Like, I don't like this." So be the change in the environment that you need. And if that doesn't work, then change your environment. You're not a tree. Get onto Peanuts and look for something else.
That's well said.
Yeah.
Eugene, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Your day is just starting and ours is just ending.
Enjoy it. Have a lovely time with Maddie and have a lovely day.